Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Family Caucus, where wit, wisdom, and a whirlwind of opinions come together to tackle America's political landscape. As a family deeply rooted in the world of politics, we bring a wealth of experience and diverse perspectives to the table. Each week, we'll engage in lively debates and insightful conversations on current events, hot topics, and more. Ultimately, we'll explore the need for unity, the power of humor, and the importance of challenging the status quo. So, whether you're a political junkie or just looking to make sense of the world around you, join us as we navigate the complexities of American politics. Together, we'll inform, entertain, and inspire each other to become a part of the solution in shaping our country's future. And with that, today I am joined by my father, Chris Saxman, my sister, Mary Taylor, and we're going to jump right into the map or the road to 270. I think that's hot on everyone's mind. And, we could talk about who's doing what and who's dominating what headlines, but what ultimately matters on November 5th is going to be who can secure 270 of the electoral votes. And right now, at least in a majority of the swing states, it seems that Trump is ahead, albeit very slightly. But, we haven't gotten into debate season or anything like that. We haven't been hounded with political ads or, we're not quite in the heat of the battle just yet. But looking at how the map looks now, I guess we'll start with you, Dad. What do you make of all of the swing states and Trump's path to 270 here?
Well, I think when you look at the swing states, it's a finite group right now. It's only 7 that are really in play. It's Arizona, Wisconsin, Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina. I think I got them all. And they're different politically, and they're performing different politically. And throw out all the Trump, Biden, 2-man race polling, just national polling. It's good for trends, but as far as what the election is going to actually do and where the money's actually going, you have to follow those swing states. That's the only place where they're going to be spending money. That's the only place where they're going to be spending time. And if you start seeing them outside of those 7 swing states, something's gone awry in the polling, or they got a real problem on their hands. Like if Joe Biden starts coming to Virginia, they got a real problem on their hands. If Donald Trump is going to Ohio, he's got a problem. Okay, the states that should be locked up and they're traveling to them, that's going to tell you that there's a problem in their polling, and they got to do some things. But what I'm seeing in the polls is that the previous blue wall of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin are tightening for Joe Biden. Arizona and Nevada are similar politically in their southwest border states, and they're also getting a lot of stress on gas prices. So doing the math in the aggregate has to be broken down into the smaller parts. And right now, I think the path to 270 favors Trump right now, but we haven't seen any ads as far as his previous performance or what he has done that would be persuadable with ads targeting predominantly college-educated suburban Republicans to not show up or vote for Joe Biden or vote for Kennedy, to dissuade them from voting for Donald Trump. So that's what I'm seeing right now.
I think you bring up a good point about turnout. Yeah, I was going to flip it to you, Mary. Go ahead. I mean, when it comes to turnout, I'm not sure that necessarily reflects in these types of numbers is what that enthusiasm is going to be within each base. So, Mary, what are you making of all of this now?
Well, I don't even feel like we're in an election year. Like, truly, it doesn't feel, because it's also early. Like, usually you don't start feeling the heat in an election until the summer. I still think it's a little premature to make any big calls right now because we don't have any ads. We don't have anything else running. The two primary candidates of Trump and Biden, it's been that way for 4 years. Like, we have prepped for this for 4 years. So like the actual true election where we're hitting the swing states and we're doing all that, I don't even feel like it started yet. And that's a weird feeling, especially in an actual election year. But knowing your candidates for so long is so rare that I think to get this wow factor, getting people out to vote might actually be the issue, because I just don't feel this get out to vote type mentality of you that you usually feel in an election year. So it'll be interesting. But I do think that there is a factor that's not being talked about enough, is that the 4 years have gone by and we have known who was going to be running. It's exactly who was running 4 years ago. So I think we're in a different spot than we have been in the past.
And I think we're in a different spot because we have one of the people who's battling 4 different court cases right now. And anytime he's in the headlines, that seems to be what's dominating it. It's not necessarily that he's coming out and attacking Biden or anything. And he's also not on the major social media sites. He's on Truth Social, which is his own social media site. So you kind of miss the jabs and stuff that he used to throw on Twitter that used to, dominate headlines. And then now every time you see him in the headlines, it's, he's falling asleep in court. He's getting a gag order. He's going back and forth with this and that. And I guess we can kind of talk about these court cases a little bit. I mean, my whole take the whole time has been that it's essentially a witch hunt, the entire thing. Whether or not 1 or 2 of these cases is legit doesn't really matter because they didn't do a great job of aligning on the front end and getting their cards in order. And I think that is ultimately going to be the demise of the Democrat Party in this and what they're trying to do in this tactic. But I mean, a big headline this week was Stephen A. Smith, and he even went on Hannity last night, and I heard him reiterate this point that people are starting to feel like Democrats are scared of Trump and that they can't beat him on the issues, so they're trying to beat him in court. So we'll go back to Dad on this one. What are you making of all of the revelations when it comes to the court cases? And do you think that it'll ultimately be a non-factor in November, or do you think that there's a way that they convict and then, this is something that is going to play a big role come November?
Well, I don't think it's coordinated. First of all, I don't think it's like the Democrats going, oh, we need to get a couple of cases of Letitia, James and Kevin Adams or whatever the guys. Who's the guy in New York? Bragg, whatever. Okay. Because they have their own personal political agendas, and they all want to be seen as the guy taking out or the gal taking out Donald Trump, or prosecuting Donald Trump, or getting a conviction against Donald Trump. I mean, Adam Schiff won the California primary because he was the primary person going after Donald Trump in that primary. I mean, it's how they raise money from the Democratic base around the country. That's how they get their name ID up. They're fighting Donald Trump. And then look, the Democratic base freaking hates Donald Trump. So anything you can do to be seen as being the lead on that, you're going to be rewarded by the Democratic base. So, Letitia James and Alvin Bragg, they're setting up their own political futures as well. Fannie Wills, not so much in Georgia. That's a different case. And I obviously would take Bill Barr's knowledge of the law a little bit better than mine, obviously, as Attorney General. I think the Mar-a-Lago case has a lot more problems, especially as we get into more foreign policy related problems in Ukraine, Israel in particular. So, but the benefit to Donald Trump is that it comes across as too much, over the top, persecuted. He can play victim, and he can turn it to his advantage for free and earned media. And that's a really important part of a political campaign, because right now his name ID is constantly he's constantly in the news. He doesn't have to pay for this. He's paying for it on the other end with his legal fees and whatnot, and obviously the emotional strain and the physical strain, which is showing in court, obviously. And people should be talking about that more, given his age and his mental acuity and some of his gaffes that he's made more recently. But it's not anywhere near on the scale of obviously Joe Biden. But the whole thing right now is helping him, ironically, with certain parts of the base, and also segments of the non-traditional Republican base, where Hispanics and blacks in particular feel like they've been persecuted by law enforcement. So it's now they get some connection and relative proximity to Donald Trump in that regard. So it's part of the process, it's part of this campaign, and we'll see how it plays out.
I personally, whether you think it's a coordinated attack against Trump or not, it doesn't matter if it actually is. It is the perception. The perception has now become the reality. I think people get sick of it. You're like, well, now it looks too coordinated because it all is coming out at one time, when what we're actually dealing with is the 2016 race, when all these Republicans came out and they were like, I'm going to be the one that I can actually do this job better than you. And then we got stuck with Trump. And now it's all of these lawyers and stuff who are like, I'm the one that's going to take him down. I'm going to do this. And so all these people are being so fucking selfish instead of taking themselves out of the equation. And this is what we're left with yet again. It's people out here thinking that they're too good and that they can do this. They have this holier than thou mentality of, I'm going to be the hero, and we're stuck with a bigger problem than what they left us with. So really appreciate everybody's effort here. We're not thriving.
It waters everything down.
To your point, Mary Catherine, and you made a many good ones in there. Donald Trump was the first Republican to announce after the 2022 midterms, the first candidate to announce for president. 13 announced after Donald Trump. 13. Yeah. Rather than get to your point, Mary Catherine, rather than getting together and saying, hey, Kate, let's just pick one between us, be done with it and go after the guy and like change the direction of the party. So we don't have to be talking about Donald Trump. We can talk about the direction of the country and the health of the party and all that kind of stuff. So they made it again about Donald Trump because they divided their opposition.
Right. And we had all these people come out of the woodworks. Like, who was the lady that was like at HP or whatever? What was her name?
Oh, Carly Fiorina?
What, ma'am?
That was
Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, you really thought you were going to do a good job here? Like,
there was a moment though where she could have made a moment, and some of the men on the stage should have stood up to Donald Trump when he was talking about her, her cosmetic surgery, and someone should have walked over to him and put a finger in his face and said, knock it off and apologize right now. One of them should have been a man and stood up to him. But that was, I think, one of the great subconscious turning points in that election in 2016, the nomination fights, when no one stood up to Donald Trump when he openly insulted women. And they should have done that.
The leadership of the Republican Party has been a disappointment, to say the least, for the last my entire life. Yeah, it's just absolute. It's weak men, and what it doesn't draw anything to the party, and that's the problem. Is you look around on these college campuses, and that's why like people like Charlie Kirk can become so popular, is that they can just go on these college campuses and say, "Hey guys, you're not crazy, okay? Like you're getting let down." And these people are starting to get pissed off. It's like at a little bit, you start to think like, am I the crazy one here? If you've been on college campuses at any point in the last 10 years, you're like, damn, it's all these left-wing professors and left-wing students that seem to be beating the drum all the time. They're making the most noise. And it really creates a void within the party, so that a Donald Trump can stand right up and say, well, at least I might not be the leader that you guys want, but at least I'm not weak. And that's at least it's been the perception with them. But I think the real funny part.
William, you hit it right on the money. Right on the money. And this is when people, Democrats in particular, I'll talk with them and they're like, I can't understand why people are following Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. I mean, to talk to a Democrat, they don't get it. And like, in difficult times, if you have one person who's saying, this is the way to go, and is a strong leader, is perceived as a strong leader, you get behind that person just for safety reasons. Mm-hmm. If you get behind the person who's going, gee, well, I don't know what we should do, and I'm trying to make everybody happy and keep my coalition together, that doesn't project strength and project out. And I think it's easy math. I think it's easy to see why people follow Donald Trump.
Well, it's also
versus Joe Biden.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, also, this is a great example of what vigilantism actually is, because what people are looking for is when they have nothing to trust. They don't trust the government. They have no safety. This is where terrorist organizations actually start forming, because it's like this mafia mob things of, you pay us, we'll take care of you. And we're saying he's going to pay us and we'll have to fucking deal with all his shit. But we will get all of this in return. We will feel safe as a nation.
Yeah.
You might be psycho, but
we're safe.
We're safer.
We're less likely.
The world was a safer place when he was at the helm. I mean, say what you want about the guy, but Russia didn't invade Ukraine. He kept like peace in the Middle East for the first time in like over 50 years. I mean, he should have won a Nobel, didn't. We'll talk about that another day. But whatever you want to say about the guy, he got some results during his time. And if you say that you're better off now than you were 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you're a liar. I mean, that is anybody across the board.
It's not true. There's some people who are better off than they were when Donald Trump was in office. You can't just not a blanket statement. The polling does show, to your point, I think it's a good one and a valid one, but I don't think it's everyone. We get to get in this whole mentality of like, no one cares about this.
80% of the country is worse off.
80%. Look at the most recent polling. 90. And well, it's important because when you can't just say that. I don't think you mean say a majority. A plurality might think that they're better off. The country's better off than it was 4 years ago. But 4 years ago, let's remember where we are 4 years ago. The country was shut down, and Donald Trump was president. So, I mean, I don't think we can say that as we, put that at the feet of
China.
Trump.
That was thanks to China.
China. No,
and he was the one guy that said it. The one guy that said it. He was crucified for it, and he's been right the whole time.
I know. But to your point, more people think they were better off 4 years ago than they are today, and that redounds to the benefit of Donald Trump. I'm not taking anything away from it, but you got to get your numbers right on these kind of things. I'm not saying don't. You're wrong.
Nobody I've talked to, nobody that, I mean, if you guys know anybody that's better off, let me know. Like, you've had a beer, somebody at a bar, and they've been like, dude, I'm like this life is, I'm kicking ass over here.
Yeah.
Financially,
not even close. Not even
people in the finance sector, like people that like in the stock market.
Some of them
these aren't people that I'm drinking with. So you got to tell me what these people are getting better results.
And this is where it's going to segment off into certain demographics and certain age groups. That's all. And and you have to factor that into the calculus when you're talking. This is why, suburban college educated men and women aren't with Donald Trump as much as they would have been in 20. They are better off. They are okay. Their view of the world is very different than someone who got laid off at a job in Youngstown, Ohio, or, pick any number of demographic outbreaks. You just can't say blanket everyone's better off. I mean, financially, I know a lot of my friends are better off. Not even close.
Yeah.
That's news to me, man. Those aren't anybody that I've had a conversation with.
They don't go, oh, hey, how's it going in the suburbs? I got a mortgage at less than 3%. I'm under $200,000. I got equity of over $700,000 in my house. I'm making more money. What else do you want?
From a mortgage you had
from the 98%.
11 years ago, a house that you've been working on for the past decade.
Hey, you said better. I'm better off.
There you go. I'm talking about the 98% of people.
If you want my calculus to be on my vote, am I better off than I was 4 years ago and vote that way? I don't give it to Donald Trump or Joe Biden. I give it to me. God damn it. I'm the one who did it.
There you
go. They didn't have anything to do with it. All they did was raise my blood pressure because I can't stand either of them.
Oh, I mean, things could have been better, though. Could they have not have been?
Not because
if Donald Trump was the president for the last 4 years?
Neither of them, and I'm in politics. Neither one of those two people would have helped me out. I mean, maybe the chaos they create, and because of everything, people want me to come talk to their groups, so they join my organization, they hire me to do certain things. Okay. If things were normal, would they need me as much? Maybe not. Maybe I benefit from all the chaos and confusion.
Every politician does.
No, that's not true.
That is 100%.
Again, the 98%.
Yeah.
You're talking about the top, the cream of the crop that maybe somebody out there is better. All these immigrants that have come up, I assume their lives are better. The 7 million that we've let come in.
Not with the turnover that's going on. I mean, are you kidding me? No. Go ahead. Pick another topic.
I couldn't have bought a house 4 years ago. Still fucking can't. So
nobody can.
I could have if we were in a position to have bought a house. The interest rates were all a little bit lower. Things a little bit more affordable. And the cost of living has exponentially increased to where if you can get like a 5% raise, you're actually getting less money.
Yeah.
Less
these are
spending
things
power.
you have to think about from people who are just trying to get by.
I get a lot of people out of my house now, so my cash flow is a little better too.
Oh yeah.
So,
see,
you're welcome.
Yeah. Again, that vote goes to me.
You
got a 6 point. Yeah,
that's why y'all don't feel better.
My mortgage payment is the same as yours, and my house is worth a third or less than what your house is.
That's a crime.
So
that's fucked up.
Meanwhile, my eggs and my milk and everything else is twice as much as what it was 4 years ago, and that's the reality.
I got a bag of Doritos. Guess how much they were?
$4.
$5.30 for just a normal bag of half air.
Yeah, well, you live in a socialist state, so that's what you get up there. But
yeah, we can't even talk about it. We try to buy a house.
I don't, man. I don't. We're gonna, like, what me and Mary are gonna do when you get off camera here today is we're gonna talk about putting you and Mom in a home and everybody in your generation getting sent to retirement homes early so that we can start to get some of these houses, because that's all it is, man. It's just
that Blackwater or Blackstone or whatever hasn't picked up either.
Vanguard, they'll come in with a cash offer on everybody right now.
No, I think that you want to talk about, all those companies buying up all the properties, turning to rental properties. I think that's immoral and it should be stopped.
Absolutely, 100%.
The government should do something.
100%. That you single family homes should not be on the. There should be a cap in certain in markets, and it should be regulated. Like, you can't have so many single family homes in the rental market, and driving up the costs and being bought up by these massive hedge funds and private equity groups. I think it's immoral. I think it's just awful.
Yeah. It's also they can hedge their bets, because I don't know if you guys have seen, but the real estate market for commercial real estate, there's 20-story buildings in St. Louis. I think I saw a headline. It was it went for 250 mil 10 years ago. They just sold it for 25 mil.
That was Chicago.
Chicago. I mean, that's absurd. So they're
Yeah,
having to hedge out of all these situations, and they're going, where else can I do it but in the residential market?
no, I have this group of CEOs gets together once a month, and we just met on Wednesday out in Chevy Chase, Maryland, right outside of DC, like right outside. I had to drive through DC to get home, right on the border. And one of the guys is in electrical contracting, like large buildings. So he knows commercial real estate inside and out. There's the three levels, A, B, and C levels of commercial properties. A is A quality, A class is doing extremely well. It's like everyone's gravitating towards that because that's the highest and best use of time to like, it's like consolidating around those high quality properties. The B and C's are getting crushed because no one wants to be in those properties anymore. People don't want to commute into them. They're in, not prime areas. Like in Tyson's Corner, it's like they're looking like at a 50% vacancy rate soon. And the renegotiating of the leases is going to just really, really punch in the gut a lot of commercial developers.
And then they're going to go gut these places and put in more apartments so that they can continue to escalate and escalate. And then, I mean, I look around from like where I went to college, where I was paying like $700 a month in rent. That same room is going for like $2,000 now. I mean, it's absurd, but that's everywhere. So it's something's going to change, and I don't know when that market's going to bottom out or crash. But
conversely, I think there needs to be some regulation on those prices as well, because if the same rental property was mortgaged and financed at a lower rate 10 years ago, and they're just jacking up the prices, I think that has to be looked at. I think that's very unfair in the marketplace. And what's happening is, government is complicit because they're not allowing more growth in the construction industry to do that. And they also have to get far more aggressive in incentivizing single family home remodeling and renovations so that people can look at deteriorating assets and go, if I put in $50,000 here, I can buy it, but have a no flip clause. Like you just can't flip the damn thing. To jack up the prices as well. I think there has to be a lot more regulation. And I say this as a free market, free enterprise guy, but people are just getting screwed because we're just allowing too many bad policies to run rampant with it.
Yeah, I think another potential way is to say, if you lock in at this rate for your rent, your renter can't raise the rent within 2 years or 3 years, because like Mary, what she's dealing with, and I'm sure she's dealing with it, is you already know next year that rent's going up. And then the year after that, and the year after that, like you move into a place and you're like,
let's look at my apartment in Arlington was a great example. We moved in, we signed 3 leases while we were there. The first one it was 1,000 square feet in a very nice building, nice part of Arlington, safe area, walking distance to the metro, all the things. Okay. Laying the land there. First lease, $2,500. By the time we moved out, it was $3,200.
Mm-hmm.
That's a $700 a month increase.
Yeah.
That's insane. And the only reason we paid it was because we knew we were moving soon and that we knew we could break the lease. But yeah, we were like, wow, that will price you out of the
They're all in cahoots because the apartment complex across the street is doing the same exact thing.
Exactly.
So you're not saving any money.
So where are you going to go? Where are you going to live? Truly.
Right. It's difficult to regulate that kind of a market. Mm-hmm. Because it's quick to increase the prices and slow to decrease. So, and people are getting squeezed. And I think there needs to be, if they can't get their act together and solve this is what I try to tell business leaders about politics. If you don't do the right thing, you're going to invite the people to step in with their elected representatives and get it done for you. And this is the morality of politics in the marketplace that I think that a lot of people just go, oh, free market this and free enterprise. Look, and I'm that guy. I run an organization that forwards free enterprise. But if you abuse the system, as I say, if you lose the privilege, abuse the privilege and lose the privilege, right? Abuse the privilege and lose the privilege. And the privilege is you have the opportunity to house people at a fair market value. But just because you can raise the prices and have everyone else raise prices too, it could be collusionary, and they have to be. They do the same thing with, there's oversight and regulation of consolidation in grocery stores because people don't want their food bills going up because people in certain markets won't have that many choices and they'll raise the prices. And that's why, competition is really important. And you can't have competition unless you have growth and development around, single family housing. And I hate apartments. I hate apartments. They're wealth destroyers in my estimation. And when they need to be turned into either condos for people to purchase, or there have to be, I have to start drawing some more row homes in inner city, inner suburbs to develop more wealth creation with the development of real property.
100%.
Yeah.
And I live in
at least it's stable at that
Never
point.
owned a home. Would love.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it really hurts our generation, because if you're making, or your employer comes to you at the end of every year and says, hey, look, you're going to get an extra $300 a month. Rent just went up $400. Okay.
Right.
So it's not, you're not helping anybody.
Still losing.
Yeah.
Still
So, and that's been going on for like the entirety of my adult life.
Employers should want to lock you into a 30-year mortgage, right? They should say, we want William in Chesterfield County locked into a 30-year mortgage so he can develop a family and be a good employee. I mean, it's in their inherent best interest to have not employees so much, tied to a mortgage for the sake of tying them down, but in a mode of wealth creation, stability, and growing a family and connecting to a community. Those are huge assets.
Well, that's not a thinking. That's not a thought process anymore.
It has to be. We have to change that thinking as a country.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's so bad. And that's the thing, is like, when people ask me, they're like, why do you keep moving jobs? I've been asked that multiple times. Oh, where are you working now? I'm like, oh, I got a new job because they're going to pay me more.
That's the cascading effect throughout the marketplace. I go chase another job so I can pay my mortgage or pay my rent because it just went up. This job doesn't want to pay me. I got to go. I'm more amenable to moving because it's going to solve my problem.
Right.
And that's
sad when you're like, I need more money. And instead of going to your employer and being like, hey, I need more than your 5% raise every single year because I'm getting priced out of my home.
Right.
Being priced out of my area. I want to stay. And they're like, we'll give you a 10% raise. And you're like, that covers the grocery edition. Like that doesn't
this is the tension in your generation. You're not getting ahead.
No, and if I didn't move back in with mom and dad, and if they didn't let me do that, and if we didn't have that kind of relationship where we could have even done that, and not a lot of my friends have that, we would have never have had enough for a down payment, ever. It would not have happened. It would have been 10 to 20 years away. Like, it just was not ever going to be in the cards. But we were lucky enough to have that kind of relationship and say, all right, let's move back in with mom and dad, and we had to be there for a year. I want to say 10 months. Maybe.
Chelsea, you weren't quite a year, but look, we enjoyed having y'all, and you were easy to have around, and helping y'all out financially was never even a thought process for us. And it breaks my heart that more families don't have that. But the simple fact of the matter is that used to be the case.
Yeah.
It's unusual now, but it didn't used to be.
Well, it's not unusual anymore now because more people are living at home with their parents because they can't afford to move out and have a house of their own. And I think, it's for all the bad things that come along with not having your independence and not being able to go out and afford all these things. Like, the first time Kyle and I finally got above water was when I lived at home when he was deployed, and I was working at Peloton because I was raking in on that COVID Peloton money. Loved that.
Killing it.
Oh, people were like, what was that like? And I was like, easy money. I was like, it almost felt illegal. I made so much money. Loved it. Praise Peloton. I was happy. But that was the moment that we got above water, because even back down, during COVID, I couldn't get a job and that kind of stuff. But it's for all the bad things that come along with saying, oh, I can't move out of my parents' house. The central family units are kind of coming back together. And I think that that's a plus here. Yeah, we can't afford a home, but living with your parents, even though it sucks, it's not out of the actual norm of society. Like, long term, over the past 200 years,
it doesn't suck. You absolutely feel like a failure when you have to ask.
Oh, I heard that differently. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you absolutely. It sucks to come over that hump and go, hey, mom, dad, I know I'm 25, but I know
I'm married and I have a dog and I'm getting my master's, but
however,
there's a room upstairs.
Yeah. I know it looks like I'm doing well in life. However,
a lot of things have changed in our society, and they're not good. First of all, they're not good. family disconnect and family separation is not good. And we're forcing those opportunities on our kids. Oh, you should move to Charlotte, Saratoga Springs, Pittsburgh, like y'all have. It's not good for family structure. It's not good for communities. And I think people are, especially during COVID, recognize that it's kind of nice to be around family, even though you're locked in. It's kind of like, all right, well, we kind of like each other now and things work out pretty well. But then we also, for the first time in a couple generations, we're looking at reincorporating older members of the family into living near, there's, what are they called? Second unit homes or accessory dwelling units, or where they're basically putting on in-law buildings in the back of lots and that kind of stuff. So families can be together and share the costs. And that's how you create wealth. Frankly, you live together, you divide the costs, and you accumulate wealth. And you're in a wealth creation mode right now, William, with your house, but that's going to take years and years and years, and that's going to require appreciation of that asset. But that's like the number one vehicle for wealth creation is owning your own home. But it comes with a cost. It comes with upkeep. It comes with a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm. Investment.
Well, you invest your time, your talent, your treasure. You invest your time in your house over 10 years if you can get ahead. And most people don't really get ahead that much in a home. But if you keep investing in it and keep it up and it doesn't degrade as an asset, it can grow and the market can reward you, like it has here for us in our area. Our house is probably worth twice as much as we paid for it just 10 years ago. That's a heck of accumulation. That's over a 10% increase. Mm-hmm. But we've put a lot into it as well.
Absolutely. Well, flipping back to the 270 map real quick. I want to talk Virginia. Okay.
All right.
Whether or not Virginia could be in play. Some of these other swing states, we know what the swing states are, but are there any fringe swing states that may be in play outside of the top 7? I think Virginia is one that gets talked about a little bit. We got a Republican governor here, but I believe Biden is ahead in most polls at the state level. What are your thoughts on Virginia? And then do you have another fringe state out there that you think could flip? I mean, Democrats, I think it's a pipe dream for them to get Texas.
I would put Minnesota and New Hampshire ahead of Virginia, then New Mexico, and then Virginia. So I would go New Hampshire, Minnesota, New Mexico, Virginia in that order as far as the next blue states to go. But New Hampshire is probably the next one. And you got to pay attention to, again, what I mentioned early in the beginning is pay attention to where they go, the candidates go, pay attention to where the vice president candidates go. Minnesota is a really, really prime opportunity for the Republicans right now. And New Hampshire has its place in the conversation. But Virginia's a stretch right now for Republicans in a presidential election. Now, off presidential cycles is much better for Republicans, as we saw in 21. So, first things first. And I feel like I've had top Democratic officials tell me that Virginia is not out of play yet for Democrats. So they're still worried about it. They're watching it. They still got to do their work, and they will.
Mayor, you got any fringe states out there you think may go, may not go? How's New York looking?
That's so cute.
Did you see Trump went to Harlem and he had a whole rally there in the streets?
Loved it.
Hey,
why not?
Dude, he's getting some. It's easy to get the crowd riled up when you get, hey, they're giving out $5,000 Visa credit cards to the people that are not you. And I know you guys have been asking for it.
They're in your schools.
To my previous point, where did he go?
Harlem.
Where didn't he go?
Upper West Side, Upper East Side.
Thanks. Saratoga Springs.
What's he doing there?
Getting the crowd going.
Which crowd?
Yeah, he's playing to the blacks right now, big time.
That's what we talked about. So when blacks see this around the country, that tells you that he is actively going after the black vote in that particular reason for that particular moment. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So if Trump goes to Wyoming, he's going to lose every state, right?
Yeah.
Joe Biden has to campaign in California. He's losing every single electoral college, right? He's not going to be going to California unless he's there for a fundraiser. He's not going to be going to Washington State unless it's a fundraiser. He's not going to be going to New York unless it's a fundraiser. But while Trump is in New York, he's got limited time. So they go, let's do a press op in Harlem. And all the blacks are going to see, Donald Trump went to Harlem and saying, I'm one of you. I'm being persecuted by law enforcement. I get it. I hear you. It's powerful, smart.
Yeah. They can resonate.
It's starting
Absolutely.
to resonate.
Being wrongly accused, wrongly imprisoned, they can relate to that.
Hell yes, they
They
can.
fucking
Dude, while
should.
the city burns around
Or-
you, you got Alvin Bragg coming after me. Look what's going on in your subways. They've had to get the National Guard down into the subway system.
Mhm.
They're focused on me.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's all you have to say.
No, I've, as many times I rode the subways in New York City, you feel very vulnerable down there. And if I'm over 6 foot, 200 pounds, young, I felt like I was more secure than Mary Catherine, who's not 5'3" and not 130 pounds. I would feel awful.
100.
Not 130.
Nah. Yeah.
I meant to say, by saying that, I meant less than.
Less than. Thank you. I've worked
Less
hard for that. I mean, but that goes the same with DC. We chose not to live in DC because I chose that I didn't want to take certain metro lines.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the thing, is like, you got to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be safe, you have to pay for it. And I'm not paying people to actually keep me personally safe. I'm just paying to make smarter decisions to be in, nicer neighborhoods.
Yeah, well, that's
You
part of
always
the
Whether
want,
or not
but
we can't
imagine people
afford
that don't
it,
have that.
it's
Don't
my
have
life.
that option. Yeah.
No,
They're paying for protection. They're joining gangs. Like this is how all this stuff starts to fall. Is they go, man, this is really dangerous out here. While the Biden administration beats the drum about how crime is down, buddy, we have eyes. You can't tell us just because you're not prosecuting crime does not mean crime is down.
It's not. Here's the fallacy by saying certain crime statistics are down, and they are in certain areas, and they're also up in certain statistics in certain areas of crime in certain areas of the country. That's not the question politically. The question is, do you feel safe? Do you really feel safe? The answer is no. No one feels safe.
Not in these cities, no. Not even close.
Do you panic when you don't lock your car? Yeah, you panic. Do you worry about your daughter, traveling in a subway or getting on an airline? You do. Do you feel safe? And if you don't feel safe, that's what's going to drive the ability for those votes to be, pushed and persuaded. And what you're not hearing right now is anything on the gun debate, which is very interesting to me, because you can't, if you're a Democrat and you're supporting the president and you've got 7 million some odd 7.2 million people have crossed the border since he took over as president, and you say at the same time we're going to take your guns to protect yourself, that's a bad argument to make. I mean, you just can't make it, right? Yeah. And Republicans haven't made that case either. They haven't said, look, you can't take our guns away while we're being frickin' invaded. That's a losing. And so it's really interesting to me that the Democrats really haven't pushed guns issue more because it pivots, an easy pivot for Republicans to get to immigration on it. Well,
it's amazing that tinfoil hat time hasn't been a mass shooting in some time. Hey, we're about due for one right here in election season, but this is how all this stuff starts to play.
I don't think you can say that. I think I have to cut that out.
Oh my God.
What?
Really?
I don't think you can say that. Like, oh, we're due for one.
Well, statistically speaking, he's not off. Have you heard?
No. I'm saying that this is a game that people play. Is that you start to hear about it right around election time, and then people go, "Oh man, they got to start taking away these guns." I don't know.
But I also want you guys to understand.
But to William's point, is it happening, or are you just not hearing about it?
Exactly. It doesn't matter because they go together. Lone wolves who are primarily responsible for mass shootings are doing it for the recognition. You stop talking about it, the problem goes away. It's twofold. You want mass shootings to stop, then stop talking about them.
But that's the only time that gun control comes into the mind of anyone.
Yeah,
is when it's a mass shooting, not when Chicago. Again, everybody brings up Chicago. 40 murders over the last weekend. Nobody talks about gun control.
One of the interesting stats, and I've been meaning to show this to my newsletter audience, are the number of times schools have had lockdowns because of guns, or how many people have because when we grew up, we would have nuclear bomb drills, which hiding under your desk is not going to save you from nuclear fallout, but that was one of the great ironies of the time. But
you felt safe.
No, you're terrible. No, you're like, we're hiding under our desk, Mary Catherine, in case of a nuclear war with Russia. And people wonder why we fucking hate Russia, and why the miracle on ice is the miracle on ice. I mean, it was like a turning point in culture in this country. But
him with one. He's got
what's
one.
That?
That was your first. Go. Keep going.
I know that one. Mary still beat me 4-1.
I'm good with that. I have made peace with who I am.
Thank God Nora's not here. No, it lost me where you were.
Miracle
But
on Ice, Russia, we hate them. But
the safety in schools, and that also plays into, you're not hearing about that. And it was in the Axios talking about the number of teachers and the number of people who have been affiliated with school lockdowns because of guns. That we'll see how that plays out in the suburbs.
Yeah.
So Dad's going to be a moderator at a debate. Was that the word? The moderator, not a moderator, the dumb moderator, at a debate tomorrow night here in Virginia, actually about 10 minutes away from my house down here in Chesterfield County. It's going to be 3 of the Republican primary candidates, not the one who's currently leading, but 3 others.
He's leading.
Dad, you want to go? Well, he's leading in fundraising right now, and I guess I don't know.
Yeah, but fundraising, go ahead, son. I hate to interrupt you.
No. I mean, we have one former campaign worker with Ron DeSantis. I think there's 2, attorneys that are running. I don't know if any of them have public office experience, but yeah, against the presumptual, who's going to end up running against Tim Kaine, I believe, for the seat.
Yeah. There's
the incumbent.
The voting starts in 2 weeks. This is put on by the Family Foundation, which is a social conservative group in Virginia, been around for 30 plus years, very influential in the conservative Republican Party. 3 of the candidates, Scott Parkinson, who was chief of staff to Ron DeSantis, a lot of experience on Capitol Hill. Jonathan Emord, who is a constitutional lawyer who's argued and won a lot of cases against the Food and Drug Administration. And Chuck Smith, who ran a close second to Jason Miyares for Attorney General in 2021, will be on the stage tomorrow night. Not participating are Eddie Garcia. I don't know much about him. I've met him briefly. And then Hung Cao, who was the Republican nominee in the 10th Congressional District 2 years ago. Those 2 aren't participating, but the very qualified candidates tomorrow night, 2 constitutional attorneys, and Ron DeSantis' former chief of staff, and when he ran for governor and won. But he was in the congressional side. So go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. What are you looking for as far as topics, as far as things facing Virginia that are coming up?
Well, that's my challenge, is to come up with the questions and to make sure that the exchange is lively but not personal, civil, and important for the audience. It'll be streamed live on the Family Foundation Facebook page, and I think they're expecting close to 300 people tomorrow night in this church and the Good News Free Will Baptist Church in Courthouse Road in Chesterfield County. So this is my first multi-candidate inter-party scrimmage. I've done 2 congressional debates for the 2nd Congressional District with the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. And that's a little different dynamic. And the Hampton Roads Chamber puts me on stage between them, which is awkward. I haven't managed the debate. This one, they asked me where I wanted to be, and I'm on the floor looking up on the stage. So hopefully the audience will see them more than see me, because the last one in Hampton Roads, I was on Twitter, and people were all over California just lighting me up on Twitter. Because you know me, I'm a pretty facially expressive person, and every time someone answers, I'll be like, well, that's bullshit, So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. And
when is the primary?
June
18th,
23rd, 19th.
Oh, let's get that one nailed down.
Ah, man, I was just looking at it right before this. Virginia.
Should be June 18th. I think it's June 18th. But this is one of the few chances you get to have multiple candidates on stage, where it's streamed live and 2 hours. So it'll be a pretty good run of the topics and issues. And of course, we'll talk about things that are most topical. You can't get away from Israel. You can't get away from Ukraine or the Dobbs decision, its impact, federal abortion ban. I've asked them for questions, not the candidates, but the organizers. I'm looking forward to it. What questions would you want to ask a U.S. Senate candidate if you had the opportunity?
How are you going to fix the housing?
Well, okay, that's legitimate.
Dude, do you think it's a problem or not? In inflation, do you think that these things are problems? Because to me, it's not necessarily that you have to have a plan for these things, but when politicians go up there, or they go on the promise that they're going to go fix these things, and then it never comes up again, that's where I have the biggest issue. Is like, I don't even care if you got a shit plan for it. And that's where, like with RFK, it's like, you say that he's got some half-cooked theories on how he's going to fix it. At least he's calling out a problem. And to me, that's something that I think resonates with me as a voter. I don't even care if your plan's perfect. Just what's plaguing you? What do you think is a top issue? But yeah,
and I think that's a great point, because someone he's a CEO of a company, recently said to me, he said, I know that I am not the smartest person in the room when it comes to me and my employees. I know that there's a problem, and I go find the right people to solve them.
Mhm.
That is what they do.
Right.
So these senators or whoever it's going to be, they don't need to have the solution. They need to see the problem and a
Mhm.
way forward. That, I think, is extremely important, especially when it comes to the different, like, Virginia's a big state. So housing really is a big concern, especially when you're up in Fairfax County, Arlington County. Like,
Yeah.
people are getting priced out of their homes. They're going to be priced out of those neighborhoods,
Mhm.
and those schools are then going to change too, because less and less people are going to be living and working in that area.
Yeah, a friend of mine has a farm in Augusta County, and he has like 12 different properties on this farm, and he is overrun with single women with children trying to find housing and shelter and protection. And he was like, Sachs, it's awful what's happening. The drugs are ravaging communities, it's ravaging relationships and marriages, and these poor women are just seeking shelter and help. And it's a very, very real problem that I don't think people are talking about nearly enough.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, fentanyl I think is a huge
Oh,
one.
that needs to be
You,
talked about.
you can't even talk about it's like the real F word. We could talk, we could say fuck on this podcast all we want, but as soon as you say fentanyl, people go, oh shit, hey, I'm not touching
And
that
touch
one.
that.
Well, but
Yeah.
here's the problem with fentanyl. I think the presumption is you use fentanyl, you die, and
Okay.
it is a very deadly drug. But everyone doesn't die when they use it or abuse it, and it's highly problematic. You can't find heroin on the streets anymore because fentanyl is taking its place. So we've got a real problem in this country, and it goes much deeper than that, to the erosion of the family, the taking the male out of the family structure.
Well, and this goes to taking a step back. Using drugs is a symptom,
Nope.
but that needs to be addressed too. Like, no one is just like sitting here shooting the shit. Life's going great.
No.
I'm gonna go find some fentanyl. I think that sounds great. Like, nobody. There is a really hard issue with men specifically not knowing how to cope, because not being able to fully process their emotions, and having a full support system of a maternal woman. This is the fall part of the family structure or whatever. And go ahead.
Alcohol and drugs are painkillers.
Yeah.
The problem is people have pain, and we have to recognize that people are in pain, and they are using substances that just numb the pain rather than dealing with the issues that cause the pain. And they just mask, and they become addictive, and they become very destructive. And there was I need to show you this graphic it's called Deaths of Despair, and how people from alcohol and drug abuse kill themselves, or actually flat out will kill themselves, suicide. And we just saw Mandiza, who was the American Idol singer, gospel singer, apparently committed suicide. And it's just the tragedy of someone taking their own life. That was like today or yesterday.
No, I didn't see that.
Wow, I know.
Yeah. I mean, and I told your grandfather, Baca, my dad, the funerals that I've gone to, most people that I know who have died at my age or younger have been by suicide or drank themselves to death or drug overdose. And it's just crushingly sad to know that those people are in such pain that as a society, we don't welcome them warmly, openly, in celebratory fashion to help them with their problems. Drugs, to Mary Catherine's point, drugs are after the fact. The mental health component starts well before drug use.
And I think that more people don't talk about their problems,
right,
because they don't feel, well, one, like, our families are all spread out. We're pretty lonely. Like, at a real level, like, we're actually quite lonely if you don't have a significant other that you even like rely on. Some couples don't talk about their problems. Like, they're just coexisting. And that's another issue. But yeah, like, there are, I mean, this is a very deep issue, but taking drugs and alcohol are just the symptom of a much
But it's
larger.
something that is not talked about on Capitol Hill at all. Fentanyl, number one killer, 18 to 45 over the last 5 years. And nobody's willing to touch it.
And where is it coming from?
Well, here's
China.
the problem. Here's the problem in politics. If everyone agrees there's a problem, no one cares.
It's not divisive enough.
It's not divisive enough, and it doesn't raise
Can't
money. It
fundraise.
doesn't get people out to the polls. So where do you spend your
Selfish
money?
as fuck. Again, back to being
Well,
selfish.
it's like the number one killer in Adam Schiff's district and in Mitch McConnell's district. It's also hitting blue collar, white collar everywhere. This is something that is just an everybody problem.
This should be one of those moments where a leader should say, full stop. We're having a conversation as a country, and we're going to make decisions on this. And we're not going to pat each other on the back. We're going to deal with it because it's destructive in every family. And
Right, but does Big Pharma want us to talk about this?
oh sure.
Do you think they really want us to talk about solving that problem?
Like the number one thing, dude, these like EpiPens, they're not EpiPens, but these like things that cure fentanyl, they're like in public schools now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in high schools, like you can find these things everywhere.
Right, like who's
somebody's
buying
having a
it?
fentanyl
Who's
overdose,
buying
you're like
it?
trained on how to do this.
Yeah, and it's so sad. But that's a different kind of leadership that, people will laugh at some of the candidates who come along and they'll have this focus on this. Say Robert F. Kennedy wants to talk about vaccines and food security and food purity and sugar and obesity and that. And it's like, well, okay, but it's not topical. It's not divisive, and to Mary Catherine's point. And then you have like Marianne Williamson, who, read some of her stuff. It's interesting. She has some good points along the way, but as a presidential candidate, never going to make it. But if she has that one point, you kind of go, yeah, we can add that to the mix. And we shouldn't be so dismissive of everyone. And why I caution y'all this, when someone says everyone's for this or no one's for that, wait a second. There's elements of someone's platform or candidacy that should be listened to and adhered, and say, let's add this to the mix and do something about it. And the problem is it gets so divisive. We get so hung up on all this stupid shit, like that dumbass Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to take out yet another Speaker of the House when they got a 1-vote margin just because the guy wants to send money to Israel and Ukraine, to enforce sovereign borders. Well, what about the southern border? Well, can we just do one thing at a fucking time in this country and actually get it goddamn done and check the goddamn box? It just doesn't happen. It's so infuriating. How do you expect to solve the debt problem in this country that's going to suffocate your generation when you got jackasses like Marjorie Taylor Greene fucking up the place? Ooh, that was 3.
Yeah.
That was way more than 3.
Plan to like how do you plan to get things done in this kind of environment? I think that's very important. Right, you're going to go work alongside these people.
Everything's for Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or the Grab or the media. They're all in it for themselves. They're all corrupt. Fuck them all. Start over. Like truly, none of you deserve to be there. Quite literally.
No. Again, too broad of a brush, but your point's taken, and it's not far off. It's a little bit.
Throw it away. Start over.
Can't do that. It's not going to happen. But I think
election integrity could be another topic that we could hear about from these people. Is just what are your plans on that? That seems to be divisive enough, and people don't have much of a plan.
Well, actually, most elections are pretty secure and have been run very well.
Perception is reality again.
Will they be taking corporate donations?
But one thing at a time, guys. You're running corporate donations and election integrity don't really match up. And the elections are state run anyway, so it's not like a national election. And a lot of states run their elections very, very well, including Virginia. Runs a very clean, very well administered, very fair election.
We'll see.
I
sure hope so, man.
All right, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Well, how would you not see it? See, the problem is you don't see it because it's not there. There's no problem in Virginia.
There's been too much room allowed to question it.
Okay, that's one of the problems. Is there's no evidence.
Harvesting is just bad.
Right.
But now Republicans are making it like a part of their platform. Now it's like we're gonna get out there and ballot harvest because we have to play this game.
Talk about it's a nice head fake.
Okay, well then until they find mail-in ballots in some dumpster or wherever.
But they sent out 2 million ballots in Pennsylvania and they got back 2,500 or 2.5 mil. It was like, well, okay. And as soon as you say a question about it, you're crazy.
Is that what actually happened?
That's what I read.
Oh, okay. Is that what had actually happened though?
Doesn't matter.
Know? Do you think you would know? Let's start here. Do you think you would know if it happened?
Yep. Yeah. Every single case from the 2020 election was shown not to have merit. There was no evidence. You got to have
You had
evidence.
20 days. What'd you have? You had 20 days to come up with your merit?
We've had every day since then to show it. Nothing's happened. Nothing's happened.
Enough has been shown that
I
there's
think the biggest
doubt.
component of why people question elections is if there is a margin small enough that there can be a recount.
Right.
Why would there be a recount? If it was right the first time,
Right every time the first time.
Sometimes you have keying errors, and that's every election has a canvas where they go back and they go over everything and make sure the math is right before they certify it. And that's part of the certification process. That happens every election cycle, in every primary. That's why I started pulling the Republican chair and the Democratic chair together after certification, on a certification day, to have a drink and say, hey, the elections were fairly run, efficiently run. We agree with the outcomes, and off we go to the next election, because we have one every year in Virginia, if not every 6 months, of consequence with all the primaries. And it's important to have, confidence in our electoral system, but it's also important to have oversight and accountability. And heretofore in Virginia, we haven't had a problem. And we've had close elections. We've had recounts with less than 300 votes separating a statewide election. It's been really, really close. Florida, one of the problems, and I just went to a conference this week on this, one of the reasons why Florida got its act together was the 2000 election, and they passed a lot of laws. So they pre-canvass and they count the ballots for all the absentee and mail-in ballots. So they announced their election results very early on election night. One of the problems in a society where you don't have a lot of trust anymore is that the later it goes into the evening, they think there's all these shenanigans going on. And one of the problems in Virginia is that Northern Virginia reports late. And people are going, if Northern Virginia's got their act together, they're supposed to be the high-tech people. Why are they the ones supporting, reporting late? What's really going on here? And why is it every time Republicans lose, it's because Northern Virginia comes in late and Northern Virginia votes for Democrats, and Northern Virginia tips the balance, and we all lose. Because when the first reports come in and say, 10% in, Youngkin's over McAuliffe by 20 points. We're up by 20 points. We're going to win. Oh, Northern Virginia just came in. We lost because of Northern Virginia, and obviously they're cheating.
Well, you forgot about the 12-hour gap in between 1 and 2 there, where all these other states have already reported who's already won, and now we have to wait until midnight just to find out.
I think federal law should be,
but what is it?
Federal law should be you can't announce any results until the last Americans voted in Hawaii. The polls have closed in Hawaii, and that's it, or Alaska, because it's unfair. It's unfair to them to be in line and go, oh shit, the thing's lost, the thing's won. Let's go home. Doesn't matter. I think that's horrible.
I completely agree with that.
We saw that here in who was the election?
If you just vote in person, doesn't all this go away?
No. Because the difficulty of voting in person would be too acrimonious. People wouldn't want that. You can't go back on stuff like that. You can't. I mean, even in Virginia, where we have 45 days early voting, I had a former Democrat when I was doing a David Toscana. We were doing a program for the Virginia Association of Counties, and the question came up about early voting, and he said he's not in office right now. He left, and he said, "Yeah, the early voting's too long. It should be like 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe, but 45 is just way too long." And because that would take it from 45 to 30 or whatever, I said, "Oh, you're trying to cut off access to the ballot, are you? Am I hearing you correctly? You're suppressing the vote?"
Mm-hmm.
And the whole place broke up because that obviously is not what he's doing. But that's how it be turned on you so quickly in politics. You can't go back on this stuff.
No.
And
how long until we're voting from our phones?
That's a problem.
These little China things. What are you talking about, crazy lady?
I don't think we're going to have it. I think you're going to go to more paper ballots. Because you're going to have that level of security and that ability to audit elections and to be able. And one of the reasons why mail-in balloting works and absentee ballot works is because the computer technology to verify signatures is so good. And that's the security level is extraordinary on the ballot security because of the signature verification from the technology.
Until they throw it away because your S was wrong.
Well, that can be the case. Then you have a provisional ballot, and then you go through the process of that. So it's a very secure process in most of the country, and everywhere.
It's too much. like the provisional thing, like because I fucked up an S, and then you get it back in the mail, and you're like, forget it. Like I did it once.
Your choice, but I mean, the turnout keeps going up. People say we're losing our democracy. Yet more people are participating in it. So the problem is they don't like the results. No one complains about a close election if their team won. No one cares about security if their team won.
Yeah, 2016 to 2020, that's pretty apparent.
The problem is we live in these cocoons where we only talk to people who vote similarly. I don't know anyone that voted for Trump. I don't know anyone who voted for Biden.
I don't know anyone who's better off than they were 4 years ago.
I
don't know. You guys might. But I got to wrap it up there, guys. I'm sorry I'm getting some calls here. Much love. Thank you all for taking the time today. If you like it, like it. If you would like to subscribe. If you want to comment, leave a comment. Go ahead.
Final score on the F words. I think Mary Catherine won 6-3 over Dad.
Yeah. I dropped one in there just to spice it up a little bit.
6-3.
Y'all have a good time. I'll talk to y'all later. Love you.
Love you. Bye.